My name is Aurelia Faye. I am 34 years old. I knew it might feel a little awkward, but I didn't think it would feel like walking straight into a brick wall. It was just a family brunch. That's what the text said. Family brunch, 11 a.m., everyone invited. Nothing fancy, no special reason, no hidden meaning, just brunch. But before I continue, hit the subscribe button and tell me where are you watching this from and what time of day is it. I parked the car a little down the street because the driveway was already full of cars. My son jumped out first, holding his small Lego figure, the one he took everywhere. My daughter slid her hand into mine, pressing close like she always did when she felt nervous or when we were somewhere new. Her hand was small and warm, and it made me feel a little braver. "Are we late?" my son asked, looking up at me with big eyes. "A little," I said, trying to sound light and cheerful. "Fashionably late." I hoped it sounded like a joke, even though inside I felt nervous. I pushed the front door open and stepped into the dining room. It felt like stepping onto a stage I hadn't rehearsed for. Everyone was already sitting at the long table. My dad was at the head, my mom to his right, my brother Caius and his fiancée across from him. A few cousins sat at the far end, chatting quietly. Plates were full of food, glasses halfway full, laughter floating in the air. But when they saw me, everything stopped. The laughter vanished like someone had pressed pause on the world. My dad looked up from his plate, fork frozen in the air, and his eyes slid over me in a way that made my stomach sink. Then he looked at my kids like they were a surprise he didn't want. And then he said it. My daughter's grip on my hand got tighter. My son froze just inside the doorway, his little Lego figure dangling at his side, forgotten. For a moment, the whole room felt frozen, like someone had pressed pause on everything. Nobody said a word. Caius didn't look at me. He was busy topping off his mimosa, his jaw moving like he had heard something mildly annoying, but not cruel. His fiancée had a tiny smirk on her lips, like this was some kind of funny entertainment for her. My mom's eyes moved back and forth between me and my dad. She didn't say anything, but I could read it on her face. It was a silent, desperate, "Please don't start," the way her fingers kept twisting the napkin in her hands. The air felt thick and heavy, almost too hot to breathe. My son tugged on my sleeve. His voice was soft, but it sounded louder than anything else in the room. "Are we not wanted?" he asked. That was it. No yelling. No thrown plates. Just that one small question from a 7-year-old boy trying to understand why his being there might make anyone upset. I bent down and kissed his forehead, brushing his hair back gently. "Come on," I whispered softly. "Let's go." I didn't look at my dad. I didn't look at Caius. I didn't wait to see if anyone would stop me or apologize or pretend nothing happened. I just turned around. My daughter still held my hand. My son walked close to my side. And we walked out. No one followed. Back in the car, I buckled the kids in. My hands were steady, but my chest felt heavy, like a weight was sitting right on it. I handed them granola bars from the glove box, the ones I always kept there for emergencies. I guess this was an emergency, just not the kind I planned for. The kids chewed quietly, trading crumbs and tiny comments about the flavor. Kids are resilient like that. They notice tension, they feel hurt, but they also know how to enjoy small, solid things in front of them. I didn't cry. I didn't feel surprised. I just felt tired. Bone-deep tired. Tired of always being the bigger person. Tired of always being the one who was understanding. Tired of always being dependable. Tired of being the one who wrote the checks and fixed everything. That was the part nobody at the table wanted to talk about. Caius's wedding was 3 months away, and I was covering at least half of it. Actually, more than half if we were being honest. I had already paid the deposit on the lakefront venue he absolutely had to have, because the photos needed to be perfect for Graham. I had paid for the cake from that fancy bakery 3 states away because his fiancée refused to settle for something local. I had put down money for the live band Caius just had to have because a DJ wasn't fancy enough. Thousands. I had already spent thousands of dollars. I told myself I was being kind. I told myself I wanted to help. I told myself I wanted to show that I supported them, even if they had never really supported me. But deep down, there was another truth I tried not to think about too closely. Maybe, just maybe, if I paid for this wedding, my dad would look at me differently. Maybe he wouldn't see me as the daughter who got pregnant too young and made life difficult. Maybe he would finally see me as someone successful who could carry other people's dreams. Maybe Caius would finally see me as more than background noise, more than the sister who always figured things out somehow. Maybe paying for this wedding would finally buy me a seat at the table I had just walked away from. That night, after the kids had showered and gone to bed, smelling like soap and sleep, the house was quiet. The hum of the fridge filled the silence, and I could hear the faint sound of a car driving past outside. I sat at the kitchen table with my phone in front of me. The family group chat was still open from earlier. My mom had sent a picture before I arrived. Everyone was smiling at the brunch table, plates stacked with food, champagne flutes lined up neatly. A perfect little scene. I wasn't in it. I stared at that photo for a long time. Then I started typing. Just to be clear, that comment this morning was completely out of line. You don't get to insult me in front of my children. Not after everything I've done for this family. You've made it very clear where we stand. Caius, I wish you the best with your wedding, but I won't be contributing any further. The venue balance, the band, the cake. You'll need to figure it out without me. I'm stepping back. I paused. I read it back to myself. My fingers hovered over the keyboard for a heartbeat that felt like forever. Then I hit send. The little whoosh of the message going through suddenly sounded louder than anything else in the world. For 5 minutes, nothing. No dots, no responses, just silence. Then it started. Caius first. Are you serious right now? You can't just bail like this. Do you know how much stress we're under? You're making this all about you. He didn't ask what my dad had said. He didn't ask how the kids were. He didn't ask why I had finally snapped. He just panicked about the money. He saw a hole in his plan and noticed the safety net had been cut. Then my dad sent a long message. He always liked sending long messages when he wanted to sound reasonable, but still hurt me at the same time. It started with, "You always have a way of making everything about you," and ended with, "This family bends over backward for you and it's still not enough." I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was so far from the truth. My dad hadn't helped me in years. Not when my first husband left. Not when my daughter had pneumonia, and I spent nights on a hospital chair beside her. Not when I got my degree while working nights and raising 2 kids alone. He hadn't lifted a finger to help. But somehow he made himself the victim. Caius's fiancée messaged, too. "This is really unfair, Aurelia. We thought you were doing this because you wanted to." I stared at her message for a long second. My thumb hovered over the keyboard, itching to type something that would make her feel the way I did. But I didn't. Then another notification popped up from my mom. Just 2 words. "I understand." No emojis, no explanations. But from her, it felt like a crack in the wall she had been holding up for years. I didn't reply to anyone. I turned my phone face down on the table, turned off the lights, and went to bed. I knew this wasn't over. Not even close. Caius had never been told no in his life. My dad had never faced a line he couldn't guilt someone into crossing. But this time I had drawn a line, and I had no intention of stepping back over it. The next morning, my phone was already buzzing before the sun had finished rising. 16 notifications. The family group chat, separate texts, missed calls, all stacked on top of each other like falling dominoes. My kids were still asleep. Their bedroom doors were closed. Their soft breathing floated down the hallway. Caius was first, always first. "Aurelia, what is wrong with you? You can't do this now. You don't understand how much work this creates. You're making this all about yourself." Every line sounded exactly like him. Panic disguised as entitlement. He didn't ask why I left brunch. He didn't ask if the kids were okay. He didn't even ask why I finally said enough. He only noticed I had said no, and he reacted like the world was ending. Then my dad messaged, "You're overreacting. You always do this. One small comment, and you take it as an attack. This family bends over backward for you, and it's still not enough." I stared at that message for a full minute. Bent over backward. This man had not bent for me a single day in my life. Not when my son was born and I spent nights awake alone. Not when my daughter had pneumonia and I slept on a hospital cot for 3 nights straight. Not when I worked double shifts and went to school. He had been a spectator, a critic, a judge, but never supported. And now he was playing the martyr. So well he almost believed himself. I didn't respond. Instead, I got up, packed the kids' lunches, woke them gently, and started the day like any other. But beneath the normal, everyday motions, something sharp and cold had settled into place. I was done being their crutch. Done being the one who carried everyone else's dreams. Done being the one who kept everything together while they complained, demanded, and judged. This time I had drawn a line. And this time, I wasn't stepping back. When the kids finally went out the door to play, I sat down at my desk and stared at the list I had written the night before. The list was simple: venue, cake, band. I opened my laptop. Today, I had to cancel everything. It felt heavy, but I knew it had to be done. The first call was to the venue. The big lakefront house Caius had insisted on because he thought a backyard wedding just wasn't fancy enough. I picked up the phone and pressed the number. "Hello, Willow Cove Estates. How can I help you?" A woman said cheerfully. "Hi," I said. "This is Aurelia. I need to cancel my reservation." There was a pause on the other side of the line. I could hear the clicking of keys, a small breath being taken. "You're still within the refund window," she said finally. "We can return your full deposit." I felt relieved. Not the kind of relief that makes your heart feel warm and happy. This was a different kind, strategic relief. A heavy knot I had been carrying had suddenly untied itself. Next, I called the bakery. I had ordered a huge cake, 4 layers of almond buttercream, decorated with edible flowers that were shipped all the way from another state. I imagined the woman on the other side of the phone frowning, thinking I was going to ruin her day. "Hello," she said with a slightly annoyed tone at first. "I need to cancel my order," I said. There was a pause. Then her tone softened. "Oh, nothing has been made yet. We can refund everything except the design fee." "That's fine," I said. Honestly, I would have happily paid double that just to have this weight lifted from my shoulders. Finally, I called the band. The hardest one. The manager tried to argue that they had already blocked the date for us. I explained calmly that the rehearsal hadn't even started yet, and that our contract clearly allowed cancellation without extra charges. "You really want to back out?" the manager asked, sounding skeptical. "Yes, I really do," I replied firmly. By 2 p.m., every single contract had been canceled. Every single dollar I had spent was coming back to me. A strange, quiet weight lifted from my chest. I felt lighter, freer, like I had taken a deep breath after holding it in for far too long. I took the kids on a walk afterward. My daughter collected red and gold leaves that had fallen from the trees. She pretended they were treasures, showing them to me as if she had found hidden jewels. My son asked, "Are we still going to Uncle Caius's wedding?" "No," I said simply. He thought for a moment and then nodded. "Good," he said. "I don't want to go where people don't like us." His words hit me harder than anything my family had said in the group chat. Kids don't lie. They don't hide their feelings. They just see the world as it is. When we got back home, my phone was buzzing nonstop. Notifications filled the screen. I ignored them while the kids sat at the table coloring pictures. Dragons, unicorns, trees, and houses came alive under their crayons. When they were fully absorbed in their coloring, I finally opened the family chat. No greeting. No hello. I just typed. "Venue cancelled. Cake refunded. The band dropped. You will need to replace all of it. My financial involvement is over." I hit send and set the phone down. I waited. It took less than 2 minutes. Caius exploded in messages. "You're insane. You're sabotaging the wedding. You're trying to ruin this." His fiancée typed too. "We trusted you. This is cruel. My dad. This is punishment. You are tearing the family apart." My mom didn't say anything in the chat, not at first. But a few minutes later, she sent me a private message. "You did the right thing for yourself and your kids. I'm sorry you had to do it alone." I stared at her words until my vision blurred. Not from tears, those had been pressed down too long, but from something quieter, something like recognition or maybe a small kind of loss. That night I couldn't sleep. Not because I doubted myself, but because I knew this was only the first domino. Caius had never been told no in his life. My dad had never been refused anything he wanted. They were going to push back. They were going to escalate. But I wasn't the same Aurelia who had folded under the weight of family expectations. I had drawn a line. They were about to find out that I meant it. After the kids had gone to bed, the house was finally quiet. I stood at the kitchen sink, rinsing dishes and trying to steady my thoughts. The moonlight cut across the countertop in pale slices. My phone buzzed again and again with notifications. Caius yelled. My dad sent long paragraphs about how I was wrong. The fiancé dropping passive-aggressive emojis. I ignored it all until my phone battery dipped to red. When the house finally settled into quiet, I took a deep, calming breath. Then, at 6:12 a.m. the next morning, my phone lit up with a name that made my heart jump. It was Riven, my husband. He was supposed to be away for another 3 weeks. He had been sending me short, exhausted texts about sandstorms, broken generators, and how much he missed the kids. I answered before the second ring. The first thing I heard was his sharp inhale. Bright, clear, like he was finally breathing real air for the first time in months. "Aurelia," he said, and everything inside me cracked open. He was back. He was here. He was coming home early. He didn't give me the details over the phone. He said enough, though, that I knew he would be on U.S. soil within hours. Can you pick me up? Don't tell anyone I'm back yet. I just want to see you first. When he walked toward me outside the base, a duffel bag slung over his shoulder, uniform creased from travel, my chest tightened like someone had finally let me inhale after months of holding my breath. I ran to him, and when he wrapped his arms around me, the weight of the brunch, the insults, the group chat, and the years of being the designated doormat all hit me at once. I didn't cry at brunch. I didn't cry afterward. But there, pressed against him, I broke. He held me until my body stopped shaking. In the car, he really listened. I told him everything. The brunch, my dad's comment, our son's question, the years of paying for everyone else, the wedding I had bankrolled to earn a scrap of respect, the group chat's explosion, the cancellation of everything, my dad's visit, my mom's confession, the silence, the tension, the fear, and the anger. And then I whispered something I didn't realize I had been thinking. They acted like I'm alone. His jaw clenched. They won't think that for long, he said. When we pulled into our driveway, he kissed my forehead, helped me carry his things inside, and greeted the kids with a softness that made me feel like something solid had finally returned to our lives. By lunchtime, it felt like he had never left. The kids clung to him, telling him everything they had missed: soccer games, loose teeth, drawings on the fridge. Their laughter filled the house like warm air. And the entire time, he didn't once mention my family. He didn't have to. He was letting me choose the moment for the truth to land. I stayed quiet for 3 days. Let Caius and my dad twist themselves into knots. Let the group chat melt down on its own. Let the silence thicken until it felt like fog. Caius tried to book the venue behind my back again. His fiancée updated Instagram stories with vague quotes about overcoming betrayal. My dad posted a Bible verse about forgiveness. He clearly had never read past the first line. Then came the thing that snapped the last thread of restraint inside me. A cousin sent me a link, a GoFundMe. Title: Help us rebuild our dream wedding after family betrayal. Goal: $10,000. Photo: Caius and his fiancée smiling in front of the lake. The same lakefront estate I had paid the deposit for. The description was worse. Due to an unexpected and hurtful loss of support from someone very close to us, our wedding plans have collapsed. Someone very close had collapsed. My son had climbed into my lap and was reading over my shoulder before I realized it. He saw his uncle's face. He saw the words family betrayal. He looked at me, confused, hurt, searching my expression like a mirror that might give him answers. That was it. That was the moment everything inside me turned from hurt to clarity. I walked into the living room and handed the iPad to my husband. He stared at the screen in silence for a long moment. His face didn't change, didn't contort, didn't flush, didn't erupt. His expression simply flattened into something cold, controlled, and precise. He set the iPad down, took out his phone, and said quietly, "All right, time to introduce myself to your family again." I didn't ask what he meant. I just stood there, heart pounding, watching the man who had always been calm in the middle of chaos take a breath and type. Then he joined the family group chat for the first time in 8 months. His name appeared at the bottom of the screen. Riven, hi everyone. I'm home. I've been fully briefed on everything. Let's clear a few things up. Caius read it instantly. So did my dad. So did the fiancé. Before they could respond, Riven sent the next message. A cascade of screenshots. The venue contract showing my name, the cancellation confirmation, the cake refund, the email from the band, the receipts for everything I had already paid, every single thing they had pretended didn't exist. Then he finished with, "We will not be contributing another cent to this wedding. Any further attempts to guilt, manipulate, or publicly defame my wife or our children will be handled through legal channels." Silence. Actual silence. 10 minutes of it. Then Caius exploded. "You're hiding behind him, Aurelia. This is manipulative. This isn't how families work." My dad tried to reclaim authority. "This is not your place, Riven. You don't understand our family. This has nothing to do with you." Riven replied with 4 words. "Return the money now. And then, or we'll see you in court." The chat went dead. Caius's typing bubble appeared, disappeared, reappeared, then nothing. Later that night, my dad sent a private message to Riven, not me. "We can negotiate terms." My husband didn't negotiate. He sent one sentence. "Pay Aurelia back in full and don't contact her again." The dam didn't just crack that night. It shattered. 2 days after Riven dropped those screenshots like precision-guided missiles into the family chat, the entire wedding, Caius's dream wedding, the one I had practically built for him, began collapsing in real time. And I didn't have to lift a single finger. On Wednesday morning, while I was pouring cereal for the kids, my phone rang. It was a number I didn't recognize, but something told me to answer. "Hi, this is Solene from Willow Cove Estates," a woman said politely. "The backup venue your family recently booked?" I stiffened. Caius had booked the second wedding place using Zephyr's name. Of course he did, but he forgot to remove my name as the person in charge of paying the money. That was a mistake. I said to the woman on the phone, "Yes, I just need to check if the payment was made." She replied, "The money was due yesterday and we haven't received it. We have 2 other couples who want this date too. If payment isn't made today, we'll have to give the date to someone else." I didn't hesitate. I said, "If Caius or anyone in his group doesn't pay, you should give the date to someone else." She exhaled, relieved, and said, "Thank you for clarifying. We will go ahead." I hung up the phone, put it down next to the cereal box on the kitchen counter, and watched my daughter stir her milk with her spoon. She made little stars in the milk, swirling the spoon around slowly. I didn't warn Caius. I didn't warn his fiancée. I didn't warn my dad. Not because I was being mean, but because this time, their problem wasn't my responsibility. For the first time in years, I could let it go. By lunchtime, the wedding place had already given the date to another couple. By evening, Caius tried calling me 5 times. I didn't answer. He also sent long text messages full of blame, insults, and accusations. Every trick he could think of, every argument my dad had ever used, he tried on me. He wrote, "You've interfered too much. You are making this about yourself. This was supposed to be our special day." I didn't reply. Riven, my partner, replied for me. He sent a short, firm message. "Be an adult. Handle your own bills. Don't contact Aurelia again." The 3 dots appeared as Caius typed, then disappeared. They appeared again. Then nothing. That night, a cousin called me. She loved family gossip like flowers love sunlight. She whispered, "Did you hear? They canceled the wedding." I leaned back against the kitchen counter, half listening, half feeling like I was floating above all the chaos, like it was someone else's story. She continued, "They said it was because of logistical problems. But everyone knows something really happened. Her parents are furious. They've already spent thousands." She stopped to breathe dramatically. Then she asked, "Are you okay?" I laughed softly, not to be mean, just honestly. I said, "I'm fine," because I really was. I didn't want to be part of their mess anymore. Later that night, the couple posted on Facebook. They wrote, "Due to an unfortunate series of logistical challenges, we are postponing our wedding celebration. Thank you for your support during this time." There was no truth in it, no real explanation, just a polite lie to cover the mess. The next morning, messages started coming in. This time, they weren't from Caius or my dad. They were from extended family members who had been watching quietly from the sidelines. Aunt Isolde said, "I'm sorry. I should have spoken up sooner." Cousin Nelina wrote, "We didn't know. We only heard Caius's version." A distant cousin I barely knew wrote, "I hope you never let them near your kids again. Some people only love you when it costs them nothing." I didn't reply. Not because I was bitter, but because these messages weren't the start of healing. They were just the end of a truth I had known for years. On Friday afternoon, after picking up the kids from school, I stopped at the grocery store for pasta and salad ingredients. My daughter danced down the aisles. My son pushed the cart with exaggerated seriousness, like it was the most important job in the world. That's when I saw my mom. She was in front of the canned tomatoes, her hair pulled back messily, wearing sandals even though it was cold. She looked smaller somehow. Not fragile, just lighter, freer. When she saw me, she didn't hesitate. She walked straight over and hugged me. It wasn't a desperate hug. It wasn't tight. It was soft and real. We stayed quiet for a moment. Then she whispered, "I told him I was done." I didn't need to ask who he was. She continued quietly, almost ashamed. "He still blames you. Caius does too. But I don't. I see it now." She told me she was separating accounts, canceling things she had been covering for my dad for years, starting therapy, and learning how to breathe without someone else's hand pressing down on her shoulder. "It feels like cutting a leash," she admitted, her voice trembling a little. She didn't cry, but something softened in me. She asked, "Are you sure you're okay on your own?" I just said, "I'm not on my own." And she smiled the way I hadn't seen in years. That weekend, Jason and I packed up the kids and drove to a little cabin he had rented by the lake. It wasn't fancy. There was no cell phone service. Just pine trees, a small wooden dock, and the crisp smell of winter in the air. My son skipped stones across the water, counting each bounce. My daughter tried to catch frogs near the reeds. Riven wrapped an arm around my waist as we watched the kids from the shore. He whispered in my ear, "This is what a family feels like." For once, I didn't question it. I didn't shrink. I didn't brace myself for the next emotional blow. I didn't worry about whether I was allowed to rest in this peace. I let myself believe it, because he was right. The quiet, the safety, the laughter. It was the kind of family I had spent years trying to build with people who never wanted me to belong. The wedding was canceled. My father stayed silent. Caius disappeared from the group chat. His fiancée posted cryptic quotes, like she was showing herself off to a new audience. And I was done looking back. Then a message from my father came in on a Tuesday afternoon. It was simple, short, and cold. "We're done. Don't reach out again. Goodbye." I read it once, then again. I waited for the sting, for guilt, for sadness, for the punch of disappointment I had been trained to expect. Nothing came. I didn't feel numb. I felt clean, like someone had finally signed the last page of a long, messy document that had been sitting on my desk for decades. I showed the message to Riven while he chopped onions. He barely slowed down. "Good," he said softly. Let him mean it. 2 days later, he got a voicemail from my father. "Riven, not me. Listen, I don't want things to get worse. I think we should talk man to man. I'm open to discussing terms about the money." Terms. My father was still trying to turn a lifetime of wounds into a business deal. Riven didn't call back. He sent one text instead. "Send Aurelia the full amount. Do not contact her again. If you don't, we'll see you in court." No threats, no emotion. Just a boundary my father had never expected anyone to enforce. 3 days later, a check arrived in the mail. It was precise, down to the last cent I had ever spent for Caius's wedding. No note. No apology. No explanation. I sat at the kitchen table and stared at it. This was the ending of every argument I had ever had with him. Every time I tried to earn his approval, every time I tried to impress him, every time I hoped he would finally see me, it all came down to a reimbursement, a refund for my suffering. Somehow that made everything so much clearer. I deposited the check and never said a word. The original wedding date came and went. No photos, no announcements, no reposts. Caius's friends posted beach selfies. Nowhere near the failed venue. His fiancée posted a glass of red wine with a caption. "Some endings are necessary." No ring in sight. I didn't ask questions. I didn't snoop. I didn't check their pages again. Their chaos no longer belonged to me. My mother stayed close in the quietest, gentlest way. She would show up with groceries sometimes or leave a bag of produce on the porch with a sticky note that said, "For the kids." She stopped wearing makeup to hide the tiredness. She stopped pretending my dad was a complicated man instead of a controlling one. One evening after dinner, she sat with me in the living room, her fingers wrapped around a mug of tea she hadn't touched. "It's peaceful here," she said, looking around. "I never had that in my own home." I didn't answer. I didn't need to. She was finally choosing her own piece of peace too. We didn't talk about my dad. We didn't talk about Caius. We didn't talk about the wedding. For the first time in years, the silence between us wasn't strained. It was healing. That weekend, Jason and I took the kids on another little road trip to the lakeside cabin. Nothing fancy, just space, trees, fresh air, and a fire pit. The kids roasted marshmallows, their faces sticky and glowing from the firelight. My daughter found a frog and named it Pickles. My son counted how many stones he could skip, each one bouncing a little farther across the water than the last. I sat beside Riven on a weathered log while he draped an arm across my shoulders. "This," he whispered into my hair, "this is what a family feels like." And for the first time in my life, I believed it. This family, this small circle of 4, didn't require me to buy my place. They didn't punish me for existing. They didn't treat my love like something to be earned or measured. They didn't make me shrink to fit inside their comfort. They didn't shame me. They didn't use me. They didn't abandon me when I needed them. They were just there, present, constant, loving without conditions. The cabin was silent except for the fire cracking and the kids' laughter in the distance. My chest felt light for the first time, maybe ever. Dad was right about one thing. We were done. But he thought it was a punishment. A slammed door meant to hurt me. But for me, it was released. It was clear. It was freedom. Walking away from them didn't leave me alone. It left me with the only family that actually chose me. And that choice, quiet, steady, and warm, was worth more than any wedding, any brunch, any apology I never received. They were done, and so was I.